everyone, welcome back to another edition of Movies That Move We. Today we're going to be talking about Lorraine Hansberry's play, which was turned into a film, Raisin in the Sun. I'll just run through the cast real quick. Walter Lee Younger was played by Sidney Poitier. Mama, Lena Younger, was played by Claudia McNeil. Ruth Younger was played by Ruby Dee. Benita, Benny Younger, was played by Diana Sands. Joseph Asagai was played by Ivan Dixon. George Murchison was played by Lou Gossett Jr. Travis Younger was played by Steve Perry. Bobo was played by Joe Fluellen. Roy Glenn was played by Willie Harris. And John Fielder was played by Mark Lidner. So this story, while it wasn't a part of the Harlem Renaissance, in a certain way, it's attached to that period of time. The Harlem Renaissance ran between 1918 and 1930. Lorraine Hansberry was born in 1930, so can almost guarantee that the Harlem Renaissance had an immediate influence on her life and her creativity. This story takes place in Chicago, somewhere between the end of World War II and 1969. And so things that we're dealing with, we're still talking about the tail end of the Great Migration, as we have in the last few conversations that we've had. We're talking about the beginning or the height of the civil rights movement. We're talking about a period where there's a bigger demand by the Black community for integration and equality. And so you have this family that is living in a small apartment. And when I say small, I'm talking about the young son, Travis, is sleeping in the living room. Mom and dad, Walter and Ruth, are sleeping in what would be considered the front room or the parlor. The kitchen is just a tiny little corner that's connected to the son's bedroom. And then the grandmother, Lena, and Benny, her daughter, they share a bedroom. There's no bathroom in this apartment. They have to share a bathroom with the rest of the tenants in the building in the hallway. Yeah, that really happened. That really happened. Mm-hmm. So it was a crowded house and everybody was feeling it. Everyone was like, we've been here for so long. We want more, we want better, but there was a clear understanding that, this is what Black people are allowed to have. Mm-hmm. Even after moving from the South, from heavy oppression, this was a small level of freedom. Lena had just retired. She was working as a domestic, as they used to call it, cleaning people's houses. Ruth was doing laundry. She was the homemaker, so she stayed home. She took in laundry, did that, got paid for it. Everyone was trying to make money. Even at one point, Travis, which is Walter and Lena's son, he was talking about, can I just go to the grocery store and, do groceries for people, lift groceries. And they were like, no, you can't go and work. He was, how old do you think he was? Like 7, 8?
Yeah, like he was probably, I'm going to say probably about 8.
Okay. And so that was kind of a hint of them moving towards that shift, that change in the generation of saying, we're not going to sit here and do these jobs that they say are suitable for Black folks. That keeps us here instead of allowing us to move up here and be on a level playing field. The title of the play comes from Langston Hughes' poem, Harlem. And this is where you may read in some places that Lorraine Hansberry is an extension of the Harlem Renaissance because how closely she ties her work to the folks that came the generation before her. So the poem is, and it's not long, I promise. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? And Zenny and I were discussing this, and I was like, she really did a good job of making her story fit the poem. Because I think you could find a character to relate to each question here. So what were some of your thoughts about the play just as a whole? What did you see?
I mean, honestly, like, I felt like in the beginning, you're kind of seeing everybody's, like, you're seeing their overall struggle, but then you kind of start to hear about their overall goals as individuals, if that makes sense. Like, or that's what I'm going to say, their individual goals you start to see. So it's kind of like, and there's a sum of money that's about to come in for the family because when their father passed away, there was insurance money that was going to be sent back to their mom. So, this money is about to come in and they're kind of all scrambling around talking about what they want to do. And I felt like each person's individual goal, it was kind of like they were so fixated on that. By the time you get to like the end of the actual film, something happens where they kind of have to like humble themselves in a way, or they have to kind of like step away from that goal that they were so focused on in the beginning, and they kind of had to look at the overall goal, which is what benefited the family as a whole. So that's kind of what I noticed about it.
They were all fixated on this sum of money, which was $10,000, which at that time
was a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, look, people were buying cars for like $600.
Yeah.
And so 10,000, that's probably a year's salary, if not more, at that time. And so this was a big deal for Lena, the mother. She was focused on, because she remembered the things that she and her husband talked about. If they had the money, they would have bought a house so their kids could be raised in a house.
Yeah.
Along the way, when they moved into that very apartment, they had 2 children. They lost one of the kids, and Lena talked about how that affected the husband because now they had 2 extra mouths to feed. That's more expense. It slows down their dream. Their dreams were deferred. Okay. You get to Walter. He's excited about this money coming in, and he's speaking about it as if the check were written to him. And he has the vision of starting a business, and he picked a good one. I'm not gonna lie. He was like, I'm gonna open a liquor store. Who don't drink liquor? That's guaranteed.
That's guaranteed money, yeah.
Guaranteed money, and he could make a pretty good living doing it at that time. Lena was a very religious woman. And so for her, it was like liquor store. Oh no, we're doing something better with this money. No, you can't open a liquor store
Yeah.
with this money. So he had his dreams of a specific business. His sister was already in college. And again, she represents a shift because she's not settling into the idea that her goal in life is to go work in somebody's house. She's the first generation to say, I'm going to school, I'm getting an education, and I'm going to be a doctor. And Walter mocks her about this.
Yeah.
You know, she's the free spirit in the family. She's going to school, she's talking philosophy, she's taking horseback riding lessons and guitar lessons, and she's very much in the back to Africa mindset. Not necessarily back to Africa, but the romanticized idea.
She's basically trying to like
is.
make sure that she's as cultured as possible.
Well, one of the things that she said to who was it again? Joseph Asagai, who was one of her love interests. He's from Nigeria. And so she's interacting with him because for her, he's a connection to the motherland. And again, at this point in time, the 60s, the 70s, a lot of Black people were talking about, you know, where we're African descended. And that's kind of, I think, where the whole, I don't know what to call it.
Movement?
It's not even a movement. It's more of the idea, because people still say it now. You know, when we were in Africa, we were kings and queens. And, you know, we have this African utopia in mind. And we don't humanize what it was really like or who the African people were and are. Can't everybody be a king or a queen at the same time? That's chaos. Come on now. We weren't all kings and queens. There were rulers. There were agrarian people. There were communities. Everything had the similar hierarchy to what we have here. They may have called it different names. It may have been a shorter system or a taller system than what we have. But the bottom line is, even now, we still kind of romanticize the idea of Africa and what it's like and what it's been like. And we need to connect back to it, which I don't disagree with the connecting back. But again, the romanticized idea. So for her, she was clinging to him just to have that piece of culture and identity. Okay. Who did I miss here? Ruth. Her idea, she was the one person who I think verbally was not fixated on the money.
Yeah, because she was, I mean, she's a part of the family, but she wasn't, because it's like, she's an extension of Walter. So it's kind of like in her head, she's like, you know, whatever your mom decides to do with that money is what's going to happen with the money. Like, we can wish and hope all we want that, you know.
And she gives us a piece of it. But
yeah, but that's not guaranteed, because what if there's something she wants to do with the money completely? Like, we can't.
Yeah. And she even sat down and was talking to Lena. She was like, what are you going to do with this money? You know, go take a little vacation. Do something for yourself. Travel to Europe. And again, it's kind of this pull and tug about this is where we are. Acceptance of this is where we are. This is where we belong. And maybe a little trepidation of stepping outside of that, because again, these are volatile times between Black folks and white folks. You know, and if you step out of line, it could have you strung up somewhere, literally. And
Mhm.
so Walter was the one who was the most passionate about this money will change everything for us.
Mhm.
He was also, you see from the very beginning, he's also critical of the women in his family,
Yeah.
because he's also fighting for identity as the man of the house. His father died and his mother took over.
Mhm.
You see scenes in the movie where when she gets up, her children kind of go,
They
okay,
back up.
I won't do it. And,
Yeah.
and Benny tested her mama. Her mama slapped her face. I'm sure those of you who've seen the play, who've seen the movie, are familiar with the scene where she says, repeat after me. In my mother's house, we serve God. And she made her repeat it,
Mhm.
And so she still ran her household like an iron fist, but it bothered him that when his father passed away, that birthright leadership didn't
Go to
go to
him.
him. His mother retained it, and his wife respected it.
Yeah.
He would get up every day and talk about this money and what he wants to do, and women just don't understand. And one of the symbols, there are a few symbols in the movie. um the eggs, did you catch on to what that was about?
Yeah, she was kind of just trying to get him to basically just stop yapping so much about what coulda, woulda, shoulda, and just kind of deal with the place that they're in, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
except where they were, because he's just yapping on and on about, if mama gave me this money, I could start a business and get us out of here. Why won't she give me this? Because I'm the man of the house. I need to be the man of the house, and I can go ahead and get this family out of here. It was like real important for him to be the one
And it
to
was
do
it,
it.
it was really reminding me too, when I was watching it, of the piano lesson, which is the one we just
Mm-hmm.
did a video on a few weeks back. But it's that same energy of like, I have to be in charge of what happens with this family. Like, I'm not leaving it to you guys to figure it out. I'm the man. I have to figure this out, kind of thing.
And in similar fashion, you have a character who is deemed as lower rung to the man
Mm-hmm.
who is in charge,
Yeah.
effectively taking care of the family. In this case, it's the mother. You can't fight with mama because I dare you.
She gave them
Okay.
one look and they just
Yeah,
took off. Like,
right. And in Fences, it was the brother. Because if it wasn't for him being injured in the
oh
war,
yeah.
they wouldn't have the house that they were in.
And
Okay. And the main character there was feeling some kind of way that he wasn't the one to do it.
mm-hmm.
It should have been him to do it. And so he's moving through the whole thing with a certain level of depression and frustration. And we see the same thing here with Walter, where he's just disgruntled and angry, and to the point that he's insulting his wife and saying, well, nobody loves you and stuff like that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, this is your right hand. You want to lead, but this is how you're talking to your wife. And it
Mm-hmm.
got to a point where his mother had to tell him, you're not going to sit up in my
And
house
talk to your wife
and
like
talk to your
that.
wife like that, you know? So that was one of the symbols. Early on in the movie, the mother kept talking about this plant in the window. She was like, oh, this plant ain't getting no kind of light. It just needs a little bit of sunshine. And it was just three stems with some piddly little leaves on it. But she was there nursing it in the window every day, lamenting that this thing couldn't grow because it wasn't getting
Enough sunlight.
enough sunlight. Um, and that she was voicing her dream, excuse me, which was to get to a place where she had enough room to grow, where her family had enough room to grow.
Yeah.
And so when she got the money, she made some solid decisions about it. And she made sure that Benny had the rest of her college tuition. That money was set aside.
Mm-hmm.
And then, without Walter's permission or pre knowledge, she bought a house. And the house she bought was in a white community. They would have been the family to uh, desegregate that neighborhood. Now, understand in that time, when black people were crossing the line and moving into white neighborhoods, it's not like it is now where when there's a certain amount of people moving into a predominantly white neighborhood, the white people move out and the black people in large portions start to move in. No, they would send something out, and this is where John Fielder comes in. He was a member of the community's welcoming committee. And they showed up at the door and greet the family. And before the family moved in, they sent John over to talk to the family and make the family an offer, a very gentle offer. And basically, the phrase "you people" was used a lot
multiple times
in his presentation, and he sugarcoated what he was saying, but it amounted to, "We don't welcome your kind around here, and we'll buy the house from you so you won't live here." And it's funny when you watch the scene. I mean, really watch the scene. The first person who catches on to it is the educated person in the room, Benny. And while she's listening to him, because they're packing up boxes and getting ready to move, she's holding a hammer in her hand and she starts twisting.
Because she's the most woke one in the room. Like,
yes. And, they have to make a decision about their dreams. Are they going to stay put, or are they going to take the risk because their dream's sitting right here? Are they going to continue to experience life in deferment, or are they going to take that leap of faith? Okay. I think this is a good historical context lesson.
Yeah.
I think it tells a story. It brings a story down to a personal level. It's not unrealistic. These were things that were really happening. As a matter of fact, I think the genre is called realistic or dramatic realism.
Okay.
Is what the genre is.
I saw romance and drama when I looked it up. I was like, I don't really feel like it's a romance, but
no,
okay.
Because the sister had her love interest, and it's interesting the way they're presented. One is if she dates and marries Joseph, she gets to move towards her identity. She still gets to continue her education and become a doctor in Africa. Or she marries, what's Lou Gossett's character? George Murchison, whose family they're wealthy black people. The Murchisons own hotels in the area. And so she can marry into this black wealth and complete school, or not have to work at all, just be a kept woman.
She wasn't going for that.
Her thing wasn't even about the money. She also wasn't directly fixated on the money. Because for her, she's going to be a doctor no matter what. It's going to happen. She wasn't the one whose dream was on deferment at that time. She was the one who was saying, look, y'all can sit here and rot and fester. I'm going to go out there and get mine. I'm going to be the first in the family to have a career that doesn't involve cleaning up behind white folks.
Somebody else, yeah.
Okay. So it was just, what path was she going to take to get there? You know, and for a moment, all of that was at risk because Walter had to mess with the situation because he was so obsessed with the money.
The money.
And like you said earlier, it forced them to reconsider what's important. And it didn't lean in on the sappy thing of, you know, as long as I have my family, everything is just fine.
Yeah.
Which I loved. It really spoke to, okay, in the middle of this thing where you want to knock your brother out, you want to knock your son out, you want to kick him down a flight of steps.
It was like introspection, like, okay, like, take a look at how he may feel in this moment. Like, think about, even though we're all upset, we're all angry for our different selfish reasons, like, think about how he feels in this moment and kind of like put yourself in his position. And once they kind of came together a little bit more and started to kind of understand each other's place in it, it kind of helped them to unify as one and
function as a family unit.
Yes.
Yeah. There was one part where what is his name again? George came to the house to pick up Benny for a date, and Walter was there, and his envy came out. So he's like, oh yeah, George, yeah, I heard your daddy bought some more land. That's good. He bought another building. It's gonna build another hotel. Y'all must be feeling really good about that. And he offended George in what he said. And as George was leaving, instead of saying bye, Walter, he said bye, Prometheus, and then he dipped out the door. Walter was like, Prometheus, who's that? It's probably somebody that he made up. But it was an interesting jab, and it kind of spoke to, you know, you're sitting out here trying to do all of these things, hustle, you know, be a trickster and find some quick, easy ways to make money. And there's a cost for that in the end. You know, this could go one way for you or the other way for you, but the path that you're going on now, yeah, you gonna end up somewhere right uncomfortable. But it was just amusing that he was like, who's that? What's the Prometheus? It's probably something he made up. How's he gonna insult me like that? And his wife was like, are you sure it was an insult? So, but overall, this is great. This play can be found in Lorraine Hansberry's book, To Be Young, Gifted, and Black. And when I said at the end of the previous video, oh yeah, we're going to be discussing this, that's what I called the movie, because I was looking at the book and the play is in there. But if you don't have the book, go ahead and snag yourself a copy, because a few of her plays were in there. I'm trying to think of the other one. It's I can't think of it. It's Ley something. It's like Ley Intelligentes or something like that. And probably my favorite in the whole book is at the very beginning with a hermit that is talking about, you know, what is time, basically. But it was so well written that I could see this old man, you know, talking about, you know, I just have a few eggs to eat. I have an egg in my pocket. And the day I decided to let go of this whole idea of time, I stood on the bridge and just dropped my pocket watch. You know, it's the way she writes, you can really connect with it. So I encourage you to get the book, read the play. Read the play, because even though this film stuck pretty closely to the text, it flipped things around in a few places. I don't think it messed with the continuity of the story or the point with the story, but it's kind of interesting to read it the way it was performed on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything you want to wrap up with?
No, I honestly think it was a pretty good movie. There's 3 versions of it. One was done in 1989 with, I think that's 1989, either 1989 or 1986. Don't quote me on that. But it was done as like a TV series. I know it had Danny
Glover.
Yeah, Danny Glover as Walter. And then they did a 2008 version that was done on TV. That's the one with Felicia Rashad as the mom, and then Sean Diddy Combs as Walter. Because I watched the movie in 2008, seeing Sidney Poitier play Walter, this is going to sound so weird, I wasn't really feeling it 100% just because I'm so used to seeing Sidney Poitier play a more like a more well put together, kind of professional, soft spoken character. That's what I'm used to seeing. I mean, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? I forget the name of the movie where he was with the nuns or whatever. I mean, he was a little sporadic in that one.
You gotta see In the Heat of the Night.
But yeah, like, and then the one where he was the teacher. Like
She
those,
with Love.
Yeah, like those movies is kind of what I grew up watching. So it's like seeing him play Walter. This is just my biased opinion. I felt like Sean Diddy Combs really played that part. Like, that's just my opinion.
People, when that came out, they were pleasantly surprised.
They
were
he did a really good job.
Really good.
Felicia Rashad also did a really great job with the mom's role. I feel like she did an excellent job with that role. Like, I really enjoyed that particular version of it. But again, like, it's still a good storyline. It really goes into family dynamics. It goes into the history of that time. Kind of just like, how we were treated, especially down to like the house and everything. Like, so yeah, it was definitely a good movie.
Now, interesting piece of trivia. And then we won't hold you, as they say in church. We'll let you go after this. Diana Sands, who played Beneatha, she was supposed to play, I can't remember the character's name, but she was supposed to play Diane Carroll's role in Claudine. Claudine, that was her name. She was supposed to play Claudine. She got sick, found out that she had, I think, stomach cancer, and died shortly after. And that's why Diane Carroll is in the role of Claudine. So interesting how that worked. And I could really see her playing that role at that time. So anyway, that's all we have for now. Our schedule's going to be a little bit different, and I know we're always kind of adjusting the schedule because of school and birthdays and holidays and stuff like that. But we are going to do this 3 times a month. So 3 weeks in a row, and then we're going to give ourselves a break because life be lifing, y'all. Life be life again. And this is a lot of work to do. We enjoy it. But it still takes a lot of work to do. So we will be back next week with another film. We have not figured out exactly what that is, but keep your eye on the banner on our Facebook page. Movies That Move We is where you can find us. Also, we're here on YouTube. Movies That Move We is the playlist, so search us there. And also, I post on the Spill app. And if you're not over there, get your hindquarters over there. Black owned, Black operated. It's a nice vibe. in that neighborhood. So those are the places that you can find us. Like, share, tell a friend, subscribe to the channel. And we look forward to seeing you next week with a new discussion. So until then,
Bye.
bye.